We're back with Yaphet Jackman. Yaphet,
Yes.
how has your work in film developed since you began, and how do you see it evolving in the next 5 years?
Um, Interesting that you'd ask me that. I've only been looking at some of the work that I've done in the very early days, and I think the entire tool of understanding the gifts that I have, and also understanding now the resources that I have available to me as I learn about creating films and video work and that sort of thing. It's been great growth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm reading this thing about saying so I'm really trying to be cognizant of the fact.
Don't read the text. I'm going to read those back to you. Don't
Sure.
just get distracted.
No, it really has evolved. There is a significant and very distinct growth spurt
Uh huh.
that is quite visible. It is very, very visible. The earlier work that I would have made and the work that I'm making now. Understanding the gifts. However, I have, and also understanding. Why am I hearing myself back? Resources that
Are you
I'm
tuned
sorry. Yeah.
in to
Okay.
you have to turn that off.
Yeah, that's off. Sorry. Yeah. So it's in in retrospect, I still have all of the concepts and everything that I would have been trying to produce or would have been producing. I was very conceptual. I never really wanted to do the work that everyone else was doing, the regular run in the mill video work. So I always tried to play with and utilize concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So that still stands, but how it's presented and how it's executed, no, yeah, that
Okay.
that's
I-
very distinct.
Is there a particular film project you're craving to make, and can you share it with us?
There is
Okay.
whether I
Is
should.
it sort of a secret? Because
I don't,
that's okay. You don't have to.
I don't.
You can give us you can give us concepts.
Even if I give you a concept, it's sort of giving it away. Anyway,
Okay. Well, don't.
to paint, no, hold on, to paint it with very broad strokes,
Okay.
it's going to be a documentary film
I
on
see.
some recent events that would have happened in Guyana, and I'm very excited and interested in doing that. I've already started doing research for that, and yeah, it's a documentary film. It's going to be based within a particular period in Guyana, and I'm going to try to capture that place and that time where that a very significant event happened.
Hmm.
Just so not only for it to be archived, because I also believe that a lot of things are happening in Guyana, and we just haven't gotten into the mode of capturing these things and paying attention to these parts of history that are playing before us. We're losing that information with every second that we ignore it, if you understand what I
Yes,
mean.
I do. I do.
And
And
archiving and database work and stuff like that, not just for visuals, but for text and for other images and thoughts and ideas, other concepts, proposals, these sorts of things. We really need to pay a lot more attention to the history that is just slipping between our fingers every day.
that you mentioned history.
Hmm.
What is your understanding of history tell you as it relates to the development of a nation?
History is telling me that enlightened people and the people that are not going along with the crowds and waves of majorities are the people that really have to stick it out and make a change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, change is always resisted, as we know, as we see that time and again. Change is always resisted. But where it really hits home, it's when everyone really gets on that same wavelength and they understand. They probably translate it into something personal, where this change is just not for us, not just for this generation that is here now, but the what we do affects, future generations. So, making the right decisions, not necessarily being penny wise and pound foolish, but really trying to be visionaries as opposed to thrill seekers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're living in the moment, and okay, let's make this decision based on these given parameters that are before us right now. The short term results or the short term fix of this thing, whatever it is, whatever problem we're being faced with.
You're also of the belief that history plays a key role in how we understand ourselves and our purpose.
Yeah.
However, for many young people, history seems to be a thing of the past, useless, and unparalleled to the ways in which we live and reason today. What would you say to that group to show them another perspective on history?
First of all, I would tell that group that I agree with them, but to an extent, so that they don't feel too offended.
Mm-hmm.
To develop that a little bit more, had we not known, what we would have done before, as I'm going to be very general about this, as a human race, we often hear the term, it makes no sense reinventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So that therefore means that there is some foundation that we can work off of. If we not paid attention to that history, then we just would have been doing the same thing over and over again, and everyone would believe that they would have been a Da Vinci or Michelangelo, because we're all operating in these little vacuums and pockets of inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
where they're like thousands and hundreds of thousands of other people that are thinking the same thing. So I always refer to this analogy. If everyone is in their little pockets, let's look at the world as a checkerboard, right? Everyone has their little square, and within that square, there are a couple of other people like them, and they think that they're doing everything that makes sense and can change that square, and keeps talking about different ideas that we can actually use and incorporate to make this checkerboard either a board of white or a board of black, to bring it all together. So if we do not cross that line between white or black, then we're really just shooting ourselves in the foot. We're just always going to be fragmented. Now, the next thing on top of that is, it's finding a common language between borders. And so what would I have to do? Automatically, I'd have to understand what's going on in the white camp. I have to understand how they talk, how they operate. Why is it that they think the way that they think, and vice versa. So up until we come up with that common language, up until we cross that line and begin to have that conversation, then we will always think that, white is bad and black is good.
I hate to do this, but again, I love to follow the flow.
Sure.
You mentioned common language, and it gave me a question. Young people in Guyana. Guyana is a multicultural society.
Yes.
And at sometimes quite divisive. So many ethnic groups, various points of view, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But among the young people, what are we as adults, or those of us in the diaspora, missing? What is this? First of all, is there a common thread among all the cultures among the youth? And what is it? What is this common thread, if it exists? And how? Well, let me ask, how would you describe this common thread among all the youths?
I think, this is my humble opinion, that the common thread among the youths in Guyana is curiosity. They're very curious about things. Unfortunately, it is not. There's a minority that is very curious about the movers and shakers of Guyana, and very curious about the things that they can do to make Guyana better. Then there's the wider majority, I believe, that is curious about how fast they can get out. Curious about, getting the opportunity to make life in some other place as opposed to their home country. They're a whole lot more in tune with everything and everywhere else other than Guyana. So it's sort of finding a way to hone that curiosity, mm-hmm. and to focus it into being interested and inspired by the Guyana story. Now, here's where I think, and I'm gonna pull the diaspora back in. Here's where I think things get a little shady. The diaspora, I would want to refer to them as that checkerboard that I made reference to just now. They're again pockets of people that are doing great things, world-changing things. But the youth back home has no clue who that person is, what they're doing. No one is capturing that story and telling it to the young boy, the young girl, be a toddler or teen, that is still impressionable. So instead of hearing about the Obamas and the Mandelas and mind you, don't get me wrong, these are all people that need to be talked about because they've done remarkable things in our world, but to localize it, let's talk about their stories a little bit more. The revolutionists, the political geniuses, the lawyers, the doctors, the professors, the engineers, all of these people that have worked, that are working and doing things to easily develop someone else's country other than their own. So that's where I'd want to put that.
I think it has started, and I'll use this analogy, mm-hmm. that if there's a well in the village square, but the water is low, and everybody throws a pebble in it, eventually the water will rise to the level where everyone can drink.
Right.
And so CWS is that one pebble, and I believe over time, other pebbles will be thrown into this well of hope that you speak of.
Mhm.
I do bring on Guyanese. It's an international show, but I do showcase our people because I think it is important that our young people get a glimpse of who Guyanese are, the things we do, and how determined and successful Guyanese can be in spite of the odds or the challenges against them. So it has begun, and we must be hopeful. What would you say is trending among the youths in Guyana today?
I really can't be sure. I don't think I'm sure.
Okay, that's fine.
I can't make a general statement. I've been told I've been told quite bluntly that I'm not a regular youth. So I can't be like the benchmark or something like that. I don't think I'm allowed.
That's all right. That's all right. Your first documentary. I want to go. I want to go back to your filmmaking. Your first documentary. How did that impact you personally and professionally as a filmmaker?
That's the easiest question that you've asked me all night. That that experience opened my eyes to access of information and really understanding how ignorant we are until we're enlightened. We always think that we have an idea of what a particular thing is. Truth be told, I can't remember my first documentary, but I can point back to when I was working on the HIV/AIDS Living in a World with AIDS project, and at that time, you know, HIV/AIDS money was everywhere. Everyone that was big business. You know, everyone was buying into it, and grants and all these funds and all that was just being bandied around, and I was blown away to the statistics and the information that was there. That was there, and that's the next thing. It's there, but we're just not engaging with it. Why? Because we think that we have, all right, I got a working, you know, I have a working understanding of this disease or this virus, sorry. I've got a working understanding of that. So I really don't need to really get into this, you know? I don't have to deal with that. I don't have anyone in my family that's affected by it. You know, so it's unnecessary information.
What was most revealing to you about that project?
The most revealing thing to me was the cases of infections and the ratio of people living with HIV/AIDS in Guyana. At that time, it was, I think, it was 1 in every 5 or something to that effect that could have possibly attracted the HIV/AIDS virus. And I thought to myself, like, randomly, you can pick 5 people, and it's likely that one person in that lot of 5 has the disease, has the virus. That changed my perspective as a young male.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, that really changed my
When you came to the university, to Hawaii,
Yeah.
when you arrived there, what were your first few months like, as briefly as possible? Was it a culture shock for you?
Well, indubitably. For the first time, I felt the color of my skin.
I see.
I was aware that I was black before, but I felt 10 shades blacker when I got here.
Have you adjusted?
I'm slowly adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm slowly adjusting. This is something that I negotiate every day. Interact and engaging with the society and the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exciting adventure.
Understand. Let me just slip into the chat room. That said, good work, son.
What did I
Uh,
tell you?
and that said, again, keep soaring to higher heights. Oren said, you're being on target regarding the common threat. Oren again, most outstanding Guyanese tend to stay away from Guyana because they felt as though they weren't appreciated enough while here.
I totally agree with that. That has to be Aaron Phillips.
Mm-hmm. What do you miss most about being in Guyana while pursuing your studies here at the university?
I miss communication. I miss chatting and gaffing while I work. I miss that the most. Like I said, it's just not a colder climate. It's a colder society where the norm is to interact with you just on whatever. If you're in front of me right now,
Right.
I'm going to talk to you. We're going to have a conversation. But the minute we break that, that's it. It's not. I don't feel that it's genuine. I feel like it's a burden to have people talk back to you. Because human contact is the next thing. Our friends in America are not necessarily huggers. they're not, they're not the pat on the shoulder kind of society, where you could just be chilling out, or you're in an editing room or something like that. You could just turn to the next person and you don't feel like you're disturbing them, So it's camaraderie. It's being a little freer to just relax and not just be locking horns with everything that you have to do in school or around the university or stuff like that. Those are the things I miss the most. Just chilling out, having a good gaff, having a good laugh, and then getting back to serious work.
In spite of that, how is studying here or your classroom experience different from the University of Guyana?
Oh wow! Unfortunately, it's chalk to cheese. I've got to be very blunt. But then this society sort of cherishes education and making sure that they attract the best and the brightest and really milk them in order to develop the country. That's sort of like the vision of the country. So the educational system is based on that. Because of all of the different rights that humans have and people have, that are very much adhered to in this country, it's a whole lot more expression. I was blown away at the very first instant where a student talks to a professor and uses an expletive, and it's cool. I'm from the Caribbean. We were colonialized. That's unheard of. Because at first, the first thing, in any Guyanese or Caribbean setting, it's disrespect. And people take offense to that. But here, it's allowing that expressive environment where people are a whole lot more comfortable to just say what's on their minds. And then, you capture that raw thought and then you try to refine it. And
It is still disrespectful wherever in the world you are. It's just that there's a certain level of tolerance.
but it's again, it's the new norm.
Yeah.
It's the new norm that I have to. I'm not. I can't say that I'm conforming to that.
What is your favorite aspect of filmmaking?
Favorite aspect of filmmaking would be director of photography, cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
I love the camera and the lights. Working with that, I've always, for as long as I've known myself, I've been behind a camera. It was just like the latter part of my career that I've been doing a whole lot more editing and direction and that sort of stuff. But I really like to, cameras, lights. That's what I like.
Who are some black filmmakers you admire and respect?
You know, those names, I can't say that those names just fall off the tip of my tongue. I'm horrible with director names and stuff, and that's something that I'm really ashamed of. Sort of, being in film school,
Right.
I'm supposed to know.
But can you remember? Can you think of any film that you really admire? I was really intrigued by the direction.
Well, unfortunately, it's not a black director,
Mm.
but I think this is sort of like the cliche question to ask a filmmaker, because the names that will automatically come up are like, Scorsese
Right.
and Cameron and these guys. But Scorsese, I
But
love.
let me do you a little bit of justice by
Sure.
rephrasing the questions.
Okay,
Who are some filmmakers you admire and respect?
I admire and respect Martin Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
I admire and respect some of the works of James Cameron. I admire and respect some of the work that the Spike Lee has done.
Mm-hmm.
I admire but do not respect Quentin Tarantino. it's 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 just, there are people that I've seen their work and I'm like, okay, I like your work, but I've been very lazy to remember their names.
Now that you're in school and you're learning all this,
No,
you,
I am paying a lot more attention to remembering names of directors and directors of photography and stuff like that.
I am sure the workload is heavy, and so let me ask you this: were there ever days that you maybe didn't want to go to school, and on those days,
Mhm.
what pulled you out of that mindset?
There's a question that I sort of use as my mantra
Mm-hmm.
for my low days, because I anticipated low days. And the question is, why are you here? And the answer to that question is, I am here because I wanted to be here, and because I wanted to learn how to make an impact with this gift and interest of filmmaking.
What did you learn about yourself while you were there?
I learned that I was very tolerant.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that I am extremely patient in the face of stupidity.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you're more tolerant here than when you were home in Guyana?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think I've been conditioned to be tolerant in Ghana, because that's what I've grown up to be accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's on the fly. I have to do that every day. There's some things that I hear and engage with, and I'm like, oh my goodness, wow. I surprised myself with the reactions and how I handled that.
So, how have you grown? I mean, I can ask you a yes or no question, but I'm not going to do that tonight. How have you grown since you've been here as a young man and as a filmmaker?
I've grown exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
I've grown to understand that the stories and ideas that I would think are normal or exciting are not. I'm just thinking and working within a vacuum. You know, I've learned to look for the very simple things and make that a story, make that a very interesting story. I have and continue to have very grand ideas, but I've now learned how to be, how to sort of budget and be cognizant of the fact that yes, I can have these big ideas, but it's not always the big ideas that make it. It's just a simple concept with the right environment and the right characters and the right way to tell it that makes the difference.